Abraham's hands of sacrifice, a journey of faith. Have you ever been asked to give up something you cherish most? Abraham faced that very challenge, a test that would define his faith for generations. Let's explore the depths of his sacrifice and what it means for us today. Genesis 22 opens with a chilling command. God asks Abraham to sacrifice his son, Isaac. This wasn't just any son. Isaac was the promised heir, the future of God's covenant. Imagine the weight of that request, the internal struggle Abraham must have endured. This was a test unlike any other, pushing Abraham to the very edge of his faith. It challenged everything he believed and everything he held dear. How could a loving God ask such a thing? The journey to Mount Moriah was a 3-day trek, each step filled with agonizing contemplation. Abraham didn't argue, didn't delay. He simply obeyed, trusting in God's ultimate plan, even when he couldn't understand it. Think about the silence between father and son during that journey. Isaac, unaware of his fate, walked alongside his father, a picture of innocence and trust. The weight of Abraham's secret must have been unbearable. As they reached the designated place, Abraham built an altar and arranged the wood. Then, with trembling hands, he bound Isaac. These were the hands of a loving father, now forced to perform an unimaginable act. Consider the physical act of binding. Each wrap of the rope must have felt like a dagger to Abraham's heart. Yet, he continued, his obedience unwavering, his faith holding firm. With Isaac bound on the altar, Abraham reached for the knife. This was the climax of the test, the moment of ultimate surrender. His hand, poised to strike, represented the complete offering of his most precious possession. Can you picture the scene? The sun beating down, the silence broken only by the wind, and Abraham's unwavering gaze fixed on his son. It was a moment suspended in time, a testament to the power of faith. Just as Abraham was about to strike, an angel of the Lord called out from heaven, "Abraham, Abraham." The angel stopped him, declaring that God knew Abraham feared him because he had not withheld his son. Then Abraham looked up and saw a ram caught in the thicket. He took the ram and offered it as a burnt offering in place of his son. God provided a substitute, demonstrating his mercy and faithfulness. Abraham's hands, which bound Isaac and raised the knife, were ultimately hands of surrender. They represented his willingness to give up everything for God. This act of obedience was a powerful demonstration of his faith. His willingness to sacrifice Isaac wasn't about cruelty, it was about complete trust. Abraham believed that even if he sacrificed Isaac, God could raise him from the dead. This is the depth of faith that God honored. The tension between Abraham's love for Isaac and his obedience to God is at the heart of this story. It highlights the difficult choices we sometimes face when our desires conflict with God's will. Abraham's example teaches us that true love for God often requires us to prioritize His will above our own. This doesn't mean we don't love our families, but it does mean we trust God's plan, even when it's painful. Because of Abraham's unwavering faith, it was credited to him as righteousness. This means that God saw Abraham as righteous, not because of his actions alone, but because of his belief in God's promises. This is a foundational principle of our faith. We are justified or made right with God, not by our works, but by our faith in Jesus Christ. Abraham's story foreshadows this truth, pointing to the ultimate sacrifice of Jesus. What does sacrifice look like in our lives today? It might not involve physical offerings, but it does involve surrendering our will, our time, our resources, and our ambitions to God. It could mean sacrificing a career for family, forgiving someone who has wronged us, or dedicating our lives to serving others. These are all acts of faith that demonstrate our trust in God's plan for our lives. Abraham's story is a powerful reminder of the depth of faith and the willingness to surrender everything to God. His hands of sacrifice teach us about obedience, trust, and the ultimate provision of God. Now, consider your own life. What Isaac is God asking you to surrender? What area of your life needs to be placed on the altar of faith? Take some time this week to reflect on this lesson Pray for guidance and identify one specific step you can take to demonstrate your surrender to God. Share your reflections with a friend or small group to encourage accountability and growth in your faith journey. Like and subscribe for more faith nuggets.